Online discussion is the predominant communication method in online peer production communities for its efficiency to support collaboration between producers who live across the globe. However, online discussions lack observable nonverbal behavior such as tone of voice, body language, and eye movement. And hence, without subtle nuance during discussion, this can lead to misunderstandings, to producer conflict, and possibly to low project quality and producer morale in online peer production communities. In this paper, we assess the effectiveness of different conflict management behaviors in online peer production communities using online producer discussion threads in OpenStreetMap as a case study. OpenStreetMap is one of the biggest open geospatial databases and communities for all types of users. It has 8.3 million registered users as of January 2022 and 4 million map changes per day. OpenStreetMap changeset discussion is where mappers discuss their disagreements on a changeset, which is a series of map edits. It is an online discussion interface that captures conflict management strategies used by each mapper. Depending on how producers interact with each other, conflicts can either de escalate by finding a compromising solution or escalate without an agreement. With an aim to drive design implications for this online discussion interface in OpenStreetMap, we assess effectiveness of different conflict handling strategies with these two research questions. We used two different taxonomy models to categorize conflict management strategies: conflict handling styles and dialogic functions. Conflict handling styles categorize five different behaviors found by people based on two behavioral dimensions of concern for self and concern for others. Integrating style shows high concern for self and for others, leading to deriving a creative solution. Obliging style with low concern for self and high concern for others accepts a solution suggested by others. Dominating style is the opposite, where concern for self is high but concern for others is low, leading to behaviors that are pushing for one's own ideas rather than to listen. Compromising style shows medium level for both concern for self and for others, and avoiding style has low concern for self and for others, which often leads to behaviors that are withdrawing from the discussion and even blaming others rather than focusing on solution development. If conflict handling styles are appropriate to assess overall conflict management behaviors for a comment during an online discussion, dialogic functions are appropriate to assess behaviors for each sentence. There are three categories, which are informative, argumentative, and regulative. Informative sentences either request or provide information. Argumentative sentences suggest a solution, arguing against or in favor of solution, or evaluate a solution. Regulative sentences manage next steps and organize discussion to assure that the discussion is on track. We added effective sentences based on previous studies on interpersonal conflict in online peer production communities to capture sentences which functions are to express negative behaviors and tones, such as condescension and personal attack. We applied these two taxonomy models on 348 OpenStreetMap chainset discussion threads with more than 5 comments that are written in English from January 2014 to December 2020. Each discussion thread was divided into 3 levels of sentence: comment and discussion. For each sentence, except for greeting and gratitude, we assigned one dialogic function. For each comment, we assigned one conflict handling styles. And lastly, for each discussion thread, we assigned the status of discussion on whether the solution was developed or not. We recruited 2 external annotators who manually annotated 348 discussion threads based on annotators' guideline on Rapid Online Annotation Tool. We divided threads into 3 batches, and after annotating each batch, we compared the annotation results. If the annotation results are the same, we saved it, and if not, we managed the differences through resolution meeting. For the first round, we had 59% agreement rate between the annotators for their initial annotation results, and 77 and 83% for second and the third round, respectively. With these data, we ran logistic regression on conflict handling styles on discussion outcomes with both conflict handling style and discussion outcome in binary format. Our results show that mapper using a dominating style is associated with high decrease in odds of developing a solution, whereas having an obliging style has high likelihood of developing a solution. We also ran logistic regression of dialogic functions on discussion outcomes, again with both independent variables and dependent variables in binary format. Results show that having a mapper using a sentence that is either impolite or arguing against is associated with high decrease in odds of developing a solution during the change set discussion. Having a mapper using sentences that are arguing in favor or managing discussion, on the other hand, is highly likely to develop a solution during the change set discussion. Our analysis results show that different conflict management strategies are associated with different levels of effectiveness in managing online interpersonal conflict. These findings can be applied to online discussion interface designs for online peer production communities to maximize positive effects of conflicts, which is to understand each other and to develop better solutions. For example, commonly found behaviors from discussions that developed a solution included attempting to understand what others suggest argue for, being empathetic to others' stance, and being analytic and forward looking about the discussion. For those discussions that did not develop a solution, they also had commonly found behaviors such as not empathizing with others, emphasizing their own opinions, expressing negatively, and not focusing on the current topic of discussion. Our design implications are aligned with OpenStreetMap's etiquette guideline, which is considered equivalent of code of conduct in other online peer production communities. And reflecting them into online discussion interface design could support mappers to manage conflict and harness its positive effects. A challenge remains as making any changes in the peer production communities, including design for online discussion interface, should involve a user centered approach, which can be a time consuming process. Another challenge is about how to reassure that the intention of conflict management of the design for the interface is accepted by the members for their behavioral change. Because by definition, peer production communities are operated and governed on a voluntary participation and compliance. Even when online peer production communities grow into communities with potentially millions of registered members, they retain their vision of open and voluntary online communities that co produce knowledge products for public good. They remain as a community with loose management hierarchy among community members and loose compliance to community policies. While everyone can participate in conflict management in a seemingly autonomous and democratic manner, this also means that no one is legally obliged to manage persistent conflicts. The identity of online peer production communities as open and voluntary organizations makes it particularly challenging to adopt more structured conflict management process, even as a magnitude and impact of conflict becomes comparable to conflicts in formal hierarchical organizations.